Hello and welcome to Travel Notes, a show where we use music as a medium to explore ways in which we are all connected. I'm your host, Grace McNally, and I want to say thank you before we dive into today's episode for tuning in wherever you might be and however you might be tuning in, whether it's via a streaming platform or on WOHM Radio 96.3 FM. Today's show is a little different as we're doing a special interview in lieu of an upcoming performance at the Savannah Music Festival. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Savannah Music Festival, or SMF, it's a dedicated music festival to presenting world-class celebrations of the musical arts by creating timeless and adventurous productions that stimulate arts education, foster economic growth, and unite artists and audiences in Savannah, Georgia. For more information, you can visit their website, savannahmusicfestival.org. And in today's episode of Travel Notes, we're talking with Derek Gripper, who's been on the show before and is a world-renowned South African guitarist whose love for the Kora set him to transcribing and recording some of its greatest works. He's joined by Malian Kora virtuoso Ballaké Sissoko for their upcoming performance at the Savannah Music Festival this weekend, March 30th at 5:30 p.m. and again at 8 p.m. For their performance, Sissoko and Gripper explore the ancient musical traditions of the griots of Mali in their performance titled The Art of the Kora. Derek, welcome back to the show. It's so great to have you and be connecting in this time zone.
I know. Hi, Grace. Thanks for having me.
Hi. Yes, and we were having a little bit of technical difficulty before we hopped on, which is why we're a few minutes late, but just on time. Everything happens in its due time. And so to dive in, tell me a little bit about how you guys are approaching this show, The Art of the Kora. What were some of the musical, cultural, and historical things that you took into consideration when curating the program?
Well, I suppose I just have to be absolutely honest with you. There is no program. Ballaké is for me, I started a project going on 12 years now to translate the music of the Kora onto the classical guitar with the idea of making, obviously just because I wanted to, but there was the added benefit of making the point that there were great African composers that could be incorporated into the tradition of interpretation, which has been the backbone of, European written music tradition. And of course there are no written scores. This is an oral tradition, 100%. So, by opening up that can of worms, obviously the learning goes both ways, and I learned as much from the music for how I approach classical music as I did about the music, and it keeps going. And one of these great composers, probably one of the really best for me, was Ballaké Sissoko. Who is a kora player from Mali, family originally from the Gambia and Senegal. He is really, the sort of top touring kora musician at the moment. Definitely the most active and the most creative, just a virtuoso. So it's kind of a little bit like, if you are a classical guitar player as I am, it's a little bit like getting a gig with Bach, and being able to go on the road. You've been playing Bach's music for years and years, and there's all these things you want to know. Did you mean that? Can it be like this? Could it be like that? And you just get to hear him play every night and play with him. And added to that is the joy of the fact that we don't share a language at all. So my French is completely non-existent, and Ballaké doesn't speak English. So we don't talk about the music at all. We've never had, even in our Google Translate, we use the phones to talk about, what time the train is and things like that. But we've never discussed anything about what we're going to play. We've never rehearsed anything. We've never decided we're going to be in this key, in the first piece, or that we like it. I like it if you carry on playing for half an hour. No, don't do that. None of that. So it's 100% a musical collaboration based on his incredible, wide-ranging knowledge of the music of the region, and my very small dipping of the toes into the repertoire and beyond.
Wow, that's so fascinating. I honestly was not expecting you to I wasn't expecting that answer, which is exciting because it makes me just think, what is it like? I imagine, what is it like then just kind of meeting in the music? Like you guys are truly speaking the language of music. Like how does that feel?
It's great. It's scary. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
because you don't really get feedback after the gig or before the gig or during the gig, in the sense of knowing, you know, it's a little bit like if you come and you're playing a classical program with someone, but you don't come from a classical tradition, and you don't know if, playing Flight of the Bumblebee is super cheesy or really great. You just don't know really. I mean, I know what I love of the music, and I think we connect on that level, and we connect on the way that we interact with strings, the hand and the string, and that interface. I think we have some similarities there, and we have some similarities in the sense that we both really enjoy sort of the music as a journeying process, as a stream of consciousness, as an act of spontaneous memory, and it's improvisation within that framework. So it's quite scary sometimes. Sometimes really absolutely exciting and wonderful things happen that you just can't believe that you're inside that.
Sure.
A lot of the time, actually. And other times I'm playing in doubt and terror. Not terror, just doubt, thinking like, oh
Sure.
my God, is this just terribly boring? Is this not working? And then, and then afterwards the audience goes, wow, and loves it. And then you're like, oh, wow, I just wasted 50 minutes of my life being worried.
Oh, amen. I feel that.
So last night was a bit like that. We played a very interesting series called Music Before 1800 in New York. And it's an early music series, and we were the first non-European early music specialists to play the series, and I think it's a very old series.
Wow.
So there was the added trigger for me of playing inside of the classical and, whatever, music establishment. So, having to sort of counteract the desire to play to them and to please them.
Sure.
That was the one challenge of the concert. And the other challenge was that we had a kind of different sound profile for the first half of the concert. That's sort of euphemism for tricky sound person, which meant that the sound didn't support us in any way. So we, you really are left with the bare bones of pitch and rhythm. You don't have resonance.
Sure.
It's just sort of like so that was immensely, interesting
Sure.
compared to, a few other concerts we've done in these beautiful spaces. But it was a beautiful space, but we were only in the space. It was almost like an acoustic concert for the first half.
Yeah.
And so there were no crutches there.
Sure.
So yeah, there are all these things, but it's whatever happens on the night is very different, and then we forget about it, and the next day we start again. So it's kind of fresh.
Yeah, sounds kind of liberating, but also scary. Yeah, but like a learning. It sounds like a really great learning way to learn, kind of on the job about.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, I think you might have already kind of answered this, but how much of the show is improvised versus how much is in composition, like our actual compositions you guys are doing?
Well, I think the term improvisation and composition, you're talking about two extremes on a line. A composition, the idea of a composition is something that's fixed, it's been written down or learnt, and it's going to be recited exactly like that.
Right.
And then on the other side, completely spontaneous improvisation and composition in the moment where nobody has ever heard that, including you, has ever heard what you're playing before. What we're doing is sort of moving left and right over the center of that line, which is pretty much the place where a lot of griots exist. There's not the idea of the individual creative genius creating from nothing. It's a shared language. There's shared phrases, shared melodies that are drawn down in new and different ways. And the more creative the musician, the more these shared ideas, can be seen constantly in a new light. And that's where it shifts towards the composition side of the line, where it's referring and taking off from an idea. So that's a long frilly way of saying we mostly don't know what we're doing. We're mostly improvising. Sometimes we're really making up the melodic material, and sometimes we're quoting fragments or parts of the repertoire. We also sometimes use some of my I sometimes use some of my compositions as a starting point, and then react to how he reacts to them. And because he doesn't know those compositions, he does new things with them, and they might become something else. So it's it's like that.
Yeah, it's kind of an organic thing. That's really cool. And yeah, that's really, really exciting. So for the music nerds and musicians who are listening, what are some joys and challenges that you experienced while you were transcribing Kora music onto the guitar?
Oh, it was all joy. It was a great time. I'd been listening to the music for about a decade when I had the idea to transcribe it, as opposed to wish that I could play like that. So it was just wonderful to have this single pointed focus and just slowly chip away and end up with this music coming out of the guitar. It was really kind of a wonderful time. Also because I knew what I had to do, whereas now because it's changing all the time, I can't wake up in the morning and go, this is what I do. It's just you wake up in the morning and go, what exactly do I do again? And then you find out at the concert, and then and then you do it again. So that was a great time. And challenging, I don't know if there were challenges. It flowed really nicely and really, really wonderfully. There were difficulties in the sense of decisions to make, like, am I going to play these as compositions as I found them, or am I going to start to change and improvise and mess around with them, and and that type of thing. How much do I want to stay with the idea of the rigorous composition performed exactly as it was received, or how much do I want to stray into the spirit of the music itself, which is very interchangeable and modular, and
It sounds fun. It sounds like, and there's such different traditions coming, like the classical tradition being in the more rote and recital style, and then it sounds like the Kora music is way more up for interpretation and kind of oh my gosh, what's improvisational and that kind of thing. But
Tumani Diabate, the Kora player whose music I transcribed a lot, he once really made that distinction for me. He said, not improvisation, spontaneity.
I love that.
And I think that's, because improvisation is quite a loaded term now.
Yeah.
From coming out of jazz and it has a lot of, connotations around it. As to what is it actually? I don't know. Are you making it up as you go along? Are you improvising around a particular chord progression, scale? Are you referring to, it could be anything. So yes, in the general sense, improvisation. Yeah.
Love that. So you guys are in the middle of a U.S. tour, or maybe towards the end? Oh.
We are. I would say last night was the middle. Last night was the fourth concert, and we've got 4 more. So yeah.
Amazing. Were you guys
halfway through tomorrow's concert in Boston will be the middle.
So Boston tomorrow?
Boston on Tuesday and Wednesday night, in Somerville at the Crystal Ballroom, which is a venue I've played quite a few times. And then we head to Jacksonville for it's Friday Music Hall, I think it's called. And then we come to Savannah for the festival.
Yay, I'm so excited.
I am too. I haven't been to a music festival. I used to play festivals all the time. And then there was this strange pandemic that happened, and they stopped. And I can't think that I've been to like a guitar festival. I haven't been to like a more sort of general music festival, I think. Not many. No, I have. But yeah, it's exciting anyway.
Yeah, is this your first time to Savannah?
No. I have played the festival before solo.
Oh, nice. Okay, awesome. Well, I'm excited. I'm just putting this out into the universe for you to come to Charleston too.
Yeah, we're working on it for October.
We're working on it. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Just for all those Charlestonians listening, get ready. So, and then before we hop off, tell me about any upcoming projects you're working on, and where people can find you online and all that good stuff.
They can find me online on derekgripper.com, DEREK, Gripper. The most exciting project is we have an album coming out, Ballaké and I. It's coming out on vinyl, which is, I've never released an album on vinyl on the day that it comes out digitally as well. So that's pretty cool.
That's cool.
I think One Night on Earth, which was my last vinyl release, came out probably about 6 years after the digital, I think, at least a while back. So this is great. The album has a wonderful name. We worked on it for a very long time to find a name that would really represent something that was shared, for both of us in the languages that we speak. So it's called Ballaké Sissoko and Derek Ballaké.
That's good.
That took a long time, and I'm really happy with it. It's on our second meeting. We went to a studio in London, and we recorded for 2 hours completely without talking to each other, without planning anything. And I didn't listen to the raw recording for about 6 months. And I put on the first track, and it was 16 minutes long. And I was in tears. I couldn't believe it that this had happened. I wasn't aware on the night that had happened, and I was tempted to just put the whole 16 minutes down, but I ended up editing down. That wasn't the only part of it, but I editing down from the 2 hours and making something that was more sort of like an album, 6-7 minute tracks, which refer to traditional Kora music, refer to my compositions. So that's exciting. I also I'm working on a Bach project at the moment, as usual.
Awesome.
Cello suites. I put up a sort of preparatory version. The new version of the first cello suite is gonna pop up on my streaming soon, which explores Bach with a kind of from a drone point of view, like the tempura from Indian music. And I got an amazing band of crickets to record alongside me, which I often like to bring crickets into the recording.
Real crickets?
Yeah, real crickets. Yeah,
that's awesome.
They're awesome. They do a lot to audio. They're really fantastic. And you hear them very loudly on One Night on Earth. There's some great crickets on that album. That was my first Kora album, if you're listening in. And yeah, then just touring, a lot of tours. Ballaké is coming to South Africa in June for the first time.
Wow.
And it's also the first time since 2010 that I've brought a musician to South Africa and done a tour, so that's pretty amazing. I'm really looking forward to sharing him with my fellow South Africans.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, and then I've got some solo tours coming. I'll be in the West Coast in April and May, and I'll be doing a kind of horseshoe from Atlanta in October, also solo, and then Ballaké and I will be back on the West Coast in January. So
wow,
I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's till the end. That sounds like an awesome rest of the year. Honestly, covering a lot of ground and get to go home for a little bit and then come back. So tell me a little bit about this track that you shared before the show.
The track that I shared is one of the tracks from the record. It's called Ninkoi, which I can't even now remember what that means. That was one of the tracks that I had thought was a completely an improvisation. I thought this came about. Nothing that I'm playing on that track I'd ever, that's on that side of the improvisation spectrum. But then, so I said, let's call it improvisation number one. And there were 3 tracks that were like that, where I I was not referring to anything. Turns out I'd started that part of the piece, I think, and so I assumed that whatever Ballaké had played would have also then been an improvisation. But then it came back and he said, no, it's not, it's this. And then, so anyway, it got a name which wasn't actually related to what he might have been doing. It was all very mysterious. So Ninkoi is, I wish I could remember. These came quite late in the project, and I've yet to learn everything about them.
What language is it in?
It would be in Bambara, in Ballaké's language.
Oh, cool.
There's Daraka is one of the pieces. That means having a good breakfast together.
Oh, nice.
And then there's another one called Koye, and those were the three that he named. And then Maimuna is a composition of his that we kind of loosely refer to. And then there's three things that start from compositions of mine. Two very new ones around this moss. They call the Moss on the Mountain, and then there's one called the Kurki, which I've used in most collaborations I've done with people as a kind of starting point. So yeah, that's all I can tell you about this. It's for me, it was a completely 100% improvisation, and for Ballaké apparently less so.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I can't wait to share it with everyone. And thank you, Derek, again for taking your time and energy and spending it with us. And I just hope you have a lovely rest of your evening. And
I plan to.
And a delicious dinner and relax.
That's the idea. I have this great place across the way from where I always stay in the East Village. And there's a Roman guy, and he makes the most ridiculous pizza that it's got truffles on it, and it's just amazing. So I haven't had one since last November, so it's kind of like a
ritual,
religious pilgrimage that I make. And so I'm going to trundle over there right now. This is our day off today, and I'm going to do that. So I'm really looking forward to it. And then we leave very early in the morning for Boston.
Amazing. Well, have bon appetit and safe travels.
Cheers.
And I will see you in Savannah.
See you in Savannah, Grace. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. And thanks everyone so much for listening. We are going to actually dive into that track. This is Ninkoi off of Ballaké Sissoko and Derek Gripper's upcoming album, Derek Gripper and Ballaké Sissoko. That was Ninkoi off of the upcoming album, not released yet, but coming out in early May, Derek Gripper and Ballaké Sissoko. And if you love that music, you can have the chance to see them live. They're going to be performing at the Savannah Music Festival this weekend. That's Saturday, March 30th at 5:30, and then again at 8 p.m. We're going to do one more track because this music is just so beautiful. This next one is called Maimuna, and it's also by Derek Gripper and Ballaké Sissoko off of the Live Oak album. I hope you enjoy. Absolutely beautiful. That was Maimuna by Derek Gripper and Ballaké Sissoko off the album Malian Oak. Again, they are going to be performing at the Savannah Music Festival. Thank you so much for tuning into this special episode of Travel Notes, where we got to talk to Derek and all about the upcoming, their performance for the festival and the upcoming album. And to find out more about the Savannah Music Festival, you can visit their website, savannahmusicfestival.org. And if you enjoyed today's show, you can find us on social media at travelnotes_podcast and on all streaming platforms under Travel Notes. You can also get in touch with me, Grace McNally, and learn more about the work that I do, and then also more about the show at gracemcnallymusic.com. Thank you all again for tuning in to WOHM Radio 96.3 FM and for broadcasting the show Monday. And thank you to OM for broadcasting these shows Monday evenings at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And until next time, wishing you peace, harmony, and smooth travels wherever this crazy adventure of life takes you. Hi everyone, it's me again. I wanted to hop back on here and share with you a bonus track that Derek sent over. This track is going to be on the album that him and Ballaké Sissoko are releasing in early May, and it's a track called Tumani's Jarabi in 1987. I hope you enjoy this little gift at the end of the episode, and hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.